I sit at my kitchen table Sunday morning, sipping lukewarm coffee while Whiskers, my rescue tabby, purrs against my ankles. The apartment feels especially quiet today, just the occasional car passing outside my window and the soft ticking of the wall clock my grandmother left me. My one luxury in this modest Salem apartment. The phone rings, jarring in the stillness. Sierra Federal Credit Union flashes on the screen, probably another credit card offer. I almost let it go to voicemail, but years of being the responsible one kicks in. Hello, this is Marissa. Good morning, Miss Lowell. The man's voice is professionally warm. This is Thomas Richards from Sierra Federal Credit Union. I'm calling about your mortgage payment. I frown, stirring my coffee absently. I think you have the wrong number. I don't have a mortgage. A pause. Is this Marissa Jean Lowell? Date of birth May 12th, 1991? The spoon freezes mid-stir. Yes, that's me. But Social Security number ending in 4832? My stomach tightens. How does he know that? Yes, but I don't have a mortgage. I rent my apartment on Willow Street. Papers rustle on his end. Our records show you're the primary borrower on a home loan for a property at 1478 Oak Ridge Lane. The payment of $2,780 was due 5 days ago. The room tilts slightly. That's not possible. I've never purchased a home. The loan originated 3 years ago, Miss Lowell. The outstanding balance is $515,000. My coffee cup slips from my fingers, splashing across the table. Whiskers darts away as I scramble for a dishcloth. This has to be a mistake. I say, my voice unnaturally high as brown liquid seeps into my calendar. I never applied for a loan. I never signed mortgage papers. I understand your concern, Miss Lowell. His tone shifts from collection to customer service. This could potentially be a case of identity theft. You'll need to file a dispute claim right away. Identity theft. The words echo as memories flash through my mind. Those credit alerts I dismissed as system errors. The pile of mail from Sierra Federal One tossed aside, thinking they were promotional materials. The unexplained dip in my credit score when I applied for that apartment on Cedar Street last year. Who? My voice catches. Do your records show who else is associated with this loan? I'm afraid I can't share that information over the phone, Miss Lowell. You'll need to visit a branch with proper identification. My fingers clench around the soaked dishcloth. What's the address? The property address again? He repeats it, and the room goes cold. 1478 Oak Ridge Lane. My sister Tessa's house. The beautiful craftsman with the wraparound porch she and her husband bought 3 years ago. The home she proudly showed me through, room by room, while I admired the hardwood floors and built-in bookshelves. The house I helped her decorate, hanging curtains and arranging furniture over countless weekends. Are you still there, Miss Lowell? Yes. The word comes out hollow. What do I need to do? He outlines the steps: visit a branch, bring identification, request the mortgage documents, file a dispute claim. I write everything down mechanically, my handwriting unrecognizable. After we hang up, I stand in my kitchen, papers scattered across the coffee-stained table. Outside, families walk to Sunday brunches. A neighbor calls to her children. Normal Sunday things while my world collapses around me. I walk to my desk and pull out my meticulously organized file stacks: returns, medical forms, school permission slips. Years of paperwork I signed for my family during Mom's illness, Dad's retirement, Tessa's college applications. My signature flowing across the bottom of each page, familiar as my own reflection. My phone pings with a text from Mom. Sunday dinner at 5? Tessa has news. I stare at the message, remembering Mom's words when I complained about always being the one to handle paperwork. Marissa doesn't need help, she helps. The family mantra about me. Repeated so often it became truth. The floor seems to tilt beneath me. $515,000. My name, my credit, my future. I look at Whiskers, who has returned to weave between my ankles, oblivious to how our life has just shattered. They stole from me, I whisper, the words strange and foreign on my tongue. And for the first time in my life, I don't immediately reach for excuses to protect my family. Instead, I reach for my phone and take photos of everything: the notes from the call, the credit alerts, my signature on legitimate documents. Evidence. My hands tremble, but my mind is suddenly, terrifyingly clear. The next day after visiting the bank and collecting documents, the manila envelope from Sierra Federal sits unopened on my coffee table for 3 hours. Whiskers investigates it twice, losing interest when it doesn't move or offer treats. I stare at it between sips of tea gone cold, my stomach knotting tighter with each passing minute. When I finally slide my finger under the seal, the paper inside feels unusually heavy. Official letterhead, loan numbers, payment schedules, and there, on the final page, my signature. Except it isn't mine. I spread the documents across the table and pull out my own files: birth certificate, passport application, health insurance forms. I line them up side by side, comparing the curves and slopes of handwriting I've practiced since childhood. The forgery is good, frighteningly good. The same slight rightward slant, the distinctive loop in my capital L, even the way my finals trails off. Someone who knows my signature intimately crafted this counterfeit. Someone like Tessa, who watched me sign her college applications, medical consent forms, and tax documents for years. I pull up Tessa's Instagram and scroll back 3 years. There at Aisher, standing proudly on the porch of 1478 Oak Ridge Lane, caption reading, "Dreams do come true, first-time homeowner, blessed." 98 likes, 17 congratulatory comments, my own among them. "So proud of you, sis, can't wait to help decorate." Below that post, a timeline unfolds. Professional photographs of each room, transformation, holiday gatherings in the dining room I helped wallpaper. Backyard barbecues on the patio Dad and I spent weekends laying brick by brick. All built on fraud, my fraud. I keep scrolling until I find what I'm looking for: a photo from 6 months before the house purchase. Tessa and Mom at lunch, wine glasses raised in celebration. The caption reads, "Thanks for always being my backup plan, Mom, blessed." My backup plan. The phrase triggers a memory: Mom's voice in the hospital when I was 16, after Tessa crashed the car Dad bought her for her birthday. Thank goodness for Marissa's perfect driving record. The insurance covers her as a secondary driver. Secondary driver. Backup plan. My phone rings, startling Whiskers off the couch. Ellie from work. "Hey, you okay? You left early yesterday and canceled your shift today. Not like you." I stare at the scattered evidence of betrayal covering my coffee table. Not really. Want company? I can bring coffee. 40 minutes later, Ellie sits beside me on the couch, her dark eyes widening as I explain. Unlike my round-faced, freckled appearance, Ellie is tall with close-cropped silver hair and the direct gaze of someone who spent 30 years teaching high school before retiring to volunteer work. "And you had no idea?" she asks, handing me a tissue I didn't know I needed. I thought the credit alerts were mistakes. My laugh sounds hollow even to my ears. Who suspects their own family of identity theft? She studies the mortgage documents, lingering on the forged signature. "This wasn't impulse, Marissa, this was calculated." 3 years. My voice catches. 3 years while I ate ramen to save for a security deposit. 3 years of them inviting me to decorate the house they stole from me. "You need to talk to someone who understands this legally." Ellie pulls out her phone. "My uncle Elwood, retired military lawyer. He helps veterans with identity theft cases." "I can't afford." "First consultation is free. He does it as community service." I stare at the denial letter from Cedar Street Apartments from last year. Application denied due to insufficient credit score. The apartment with the breakfast nook and southern exposure I'd saved for 18 months to afford. "What happens to the house?" I ask. "Depends on what you want to happen," Ellie says, her voice gentle but firm. "This isn't just wrong, Marissa, it's criminal." Criminal. The word should feel excessive, dramatic. Instead, it feels precisely right. My phone pings again. Another text from Mom. "Don't forget Tessa's housewarming next Sunday. Bringing that spinach dip everyone loves?" I set the phone down without responding. On my laptop, I open my email and find the credit monitoring alerts I'd dismissed as system errors. 5 in the first year after the mortgage appeared. 3 more last year when Tessa apparently opened a line of credit for home improvements. Another ping. Dad this time. Need help with your taxes this weekend? My taxes, which he's prepared for me since I was 16, which gave him access to my social security number, employment history, and financial records year after year. The anger rises slow and steady, like water filling a bathtub. Not the quick flash of irritation I've felt before, but something deeper, more substantial. This anger has weight to it, substance. Will you call your uncle? I ask Ellie, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. She nods, already dialing. You're doing the right thing. Outside my window, a family walks by, parents holding hands, children skipping ahead. Normal Sunday things. But inside my apartment, surrounded by evidence of 3 years of calculated betrayal, nothing will ever be normal again. I gather the documents into a new folder labeled Fraud Evidence in bold black marker. The first decision I've made for myself in years. The text arrives Thursday afternoon while I'm cleaning kennels at the shelter. Sunday dinner at 5. Important family news. Don't be late. Mom's tone, even through text, carries that familiar command wrapped in sweetness. I stare at the phone, my stomach nodding. 3 days since Mr. Crane helped me file the police report. 3 days of silence from my family after I stopped answering their calls. 3 days of finally sleeping through the night with Justice, my newly adopted shepherd mix, curled against my side. Everything okay? Ellie appears in the doorway, her salt and pepper hair escaping from her bandana. She holds 2 mugs of coffee, extending one toward me. Family dinner summons. I take the mug, inhaling the rich aroma. They want me there Sunday. Ellie leans against the doorframe. Are you going? The question hangs between us. Am I going? Before the mortgage discovery, I wouldn't have considered refusing. But now? Yes. The word surprises me. I need to see their faces when I ask them directly. Ellie nods. No judgment, just understanding. That's why I told her everything first. That and the coffee she silently brought me that morning. I came to work with red-rimmed eyes. Mr. Crane says I need to control the narrative. I set down my mug and return to scrubbing the kennel floor. If I don't confront them, they'll spin this into me overreacting. $500,000 isn't an overreaction. Ellie's voice hardens. It's fraud. The word still makes me flinch. Fraud, identity theft, criminal charges, family words now. Will you call me after? Ellie asks. I nod, grateful for this unlikely friendship born from betrayal. Promise. Sunday evening, I park 3 houses down from my parents' Tudor-style home, needing those extra moments to steady my breathing. Justice sits in the passenger seat, his watchful eyes never leaving my face. Wait here, buddy. I won't be long. Inside my purse sits a manila folder with copies of everything: the mortgage documents, the credit reports, the police report. Mr. Crane's advice echoes in my head. Don't let them talk over you. Don't accept excuses. This wasn't a mistake, it was a calculated decision. The front door opens before I knock. Mom stands there in her Sunday best, pearl earrings catching the light. You're late, she says, but hugs me anyway. Her familiar perfume, white shoulders, the same since I was a child, wraps around me. For one treacherous moment, I want to sink into it, to believe this is just another family dinner. Then I remember the banker's voice. $515,000. Traffic, I lie. I never lie to my mother. The small rebellion feels strangely liberating. The dining room gleams with the good china and crystal water glasses. Dad carves a roast at the head of the table, and Tessa sits with her husband Brian, their heads bent over a catalog of some kind. Marissa's here, Mom announces, her voice carrying that undercurrent of finally. Dad glances up with a quick smile. Grab a seat, we're just getting started. Tessa looks up, her perfect smile faltering slightly when our eyes meet. Something flickers their wariness before she recovers. Sis, we've missed you this week. Where have you been hiding? I slide into my usual chair. Working. The shelter's busy with kitten season. Conversation flows like it always has. Dad talks about his golf game. Mom mentions her garden club drama. Tessa and Brian exchange meaningful glances before announcing they're considering a kitchen renovation for their beautiful craftsman home. The home with my name on the mortgage. We're thinking Italian marble for the countertops, Tessa says, sliding the catalog toward me. What do you think? The white with gold veining or the gray? My fingers curl around my water glass. How much does Italian marble cost these days? Brian chuckles. Arm and a leg, but Tessa deserves the best. She always has gotten the best, I say quietly. The table falls silent. Mom's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. What's that supposed to mean? Dad asks, his carving knife still in hand. I reach for my purse, my heart hammering against my ribs. Does anyone know anything about a mortgage loan in my name for $515,000? The room freezes. No one moves. No one speaks. Then, this again? Mom sighs dramatically. Marissa, we've talked about how you overthink things. We haven't talked about this. I pull out the folder and place it on the table. I have copies of everything, the loan documents, the credit reports. The police report I filed Thursday. Tessa's face drains of color. Dad's knife clatters against his plate. Police report? Mom whispers. It was my name, I say, my voice steady for the first time in family memory. My credit, my future. Tessa recovers first, her expression hardening. You have good credit. I don't. What's the big deal? We make the payments. Except when you don't. That's why the bank called me. My fingers tremble, but my voice remains calm. You stole my identity. We didn't steal anything, Mom interjects. We borrowed your good name to help your sister get started. After all we've done for you. The familiar guilt trip slides off me like water. What exactly have you done for me? Besides, use me as your backup plan? Dad finally speaks, his voice low. Marissa, be reasonable. This can be handled privately. No need for police. I look at each of their faces. Mom's indignant, Dad's uncomfortable, Tessa's entitled. The people I've spent my life trying to please, the family I rearranged my dreams to support. It's already done. I stand, gathering my folder. The bank's fraud department has been notified, the police are investigating, and I'm not covering for any of you anymore. You can't be serious. Tessa's voice rises. They'll take our house. You mean my house? According to the paperwork. Mom rises, reaching for my arm. Think about what you're doing to this family. For the first time in 34 years, I pull away from her grasp. I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about how easy it was for you to use me, how none of you even considered what this would do to me. I walk toward the door, each step lighter than the last. Marissa, Mom calls, don't you walk out that door? I turn back one last time. Family asks. They don't steal. Then I walk out into the cool evening air where Justice waits patiently in my car, his steady presence the only family I need tonight. The knocking starts at 7:30 Tuesday morning. 3 sharp raps that send Justice scurrying under the bed. I know who it is before I open the door. Mom stands in the hallway, her face blotchy from crying. She brushes past me without waiting for an invitation. How could you go to the police? Her voice breaks as she paces my small living room. You've ruined everything. I close the door quietly, feeling strangely calm. Would you like some coffee? Coffee? She stares at me like I've offered her poison. Your sister might lose her house, your father hasn't slept in days. And you're offering me coffee? I move to the kitchen anyway, filling the kettle. The familiar routine steadies my hands. I didn't cause this situation. It was just paperwork, Marissa. We always handled paperwork as a family. The word paperwork ignites something in my chest. I set the kettle down with deliberate care. $500,000 isn't paperwork, it's fraud. Mom collapses onto my sofa, shoulders hunched. We were going to tell you eventually. Tessa just needed to get on her feet. The bank wouldn't approve her loan with her credit history. So you stole mine. Borrowed, she corrects, not meeting my eyes. Your credit was perfect, you weren't using it. I walk to my desk and retrieve a manila envelope. The bank courier had delivered it yesterday, the complete mortgage application with my forged signature on 17 separate pages. This isn't borrowing. I place it on the coffee table between us. This is theft. Mom pushes the envelope away without looking at it. Family helps family, you know that. Family asks, I say, the words coming from some new steal part of me. They don't steal. My phone buzzes for the 12th time this morning. Another text from Tessa. How could you do this to me? I silence it without reading the rest. Your sister has 2 children, Mom says, her voice low and accusatory. Where will they live if they lose the house? The same place I would have lived if the bank had come after me for the payments. The answer surprises me with its simplicity. Maybe with their other set of grandparents. The ones with the vacation home in Bend. Mom's mouth tightens. I never raised you to be vindictive. No, you raised me to be reliable. I reach for my wallet and pull out a birthday card yellowed at the edges. Remember this? She takes it reluctantly. Inside, beneath the printed message, Dad's handwriting. Thank you for always being our backup plan. Your father meant that as a compliment. I know. I take the card back, running my thumb over the ink. That's what makes it worse. The kettle whistles. Neither of us moves. Mr. Crane says the bank may press charges. It's out of my hands now. Mom stands suddenly fierce. That man has no business involving himself in family matters. He's my lawyer. He's filling your head with nonsense. We're your family. We would never hurt you. The laugh that escapes me sounds foreign to my own ears. Tell that to my credit score. Her phone rings Dad's ringtone. She answers immediately, turning away from me. She won't listen. I know. I'll try. While she talks, I pour a single cup of coffee and add cream. Not for her, for me. When she hangs up, her expression has shifted from anger to calculation. Your father says we can handle this privately. No courts, no police. Tessa will set up a payment plan. Too late. I sip my coffee, the bitter warmth fortifying me. The bank's fraud department has everything. You can withdraw the complaint. I won't. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? The question hangs between us, genuine in its curiosity. She blinks, momentarily lost. We're your family. That's not an answer. The silence stretches, broken only by Justice cautiously emerging from the bedroom to press against my leg. You were always so capable, Mom finally says, her voice small. You never seemed to need anything. The truth of this, the painful, backward logic of it settles in my chest. I'd been punished for my competence, exploited for my reliability. I needed to be seen, I say quietly. I needed to be asked, not used. Mom gathers her purse, her movements stiff. I'll tell your father you're not being reasonable. I walk her to the door, Justice trailing protectively at my heels. Before she leaves, Mom turns, her expression crumpling into something that might be genuine remorse. We never thought it would hurt you, she whispers. Your credit was so good. The door closes between us. I stand there, coffee cooling in my hand, understanding washing over me in waves. They hadn't failed to see me. They had seen exactly what they could take. My phone vibrates with a text from Mr. Crane. Bank suspended the mortgage. First victory. Justice nudges my free hand with his nose. I scratch behind his ears, feeling the strange lightness that comes with setting down a burden carried too long. We're going to be okay, I tell him, and for the first time in a week, I believe it. Next week, the animal shelter buzzes with activity around me barking dogs, volunteers chattering, the squeak of mop buckets against linoleum. But when Dad walks through the front door, everything else fades away. He stands uncertainly in the lobby, his navy windbreaker zipped despite the warm spring air, a manila envelope clutched in one hand. My stomach knots. I recognize that envelope. Bank letterhead. You shouldn't be here, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. He glances at my coworkers. Can we talk somewhere private? I consider refusing but lead him to the small break room instead, closing the door behind us. The windowless space feels immediately smaller with him in it. He places the envelope on the table between us, his wedding ring tapping against the formica. We can handle this privately, he says. No need for courts or police. The fluorescent lights buzz above us. I wait. Your sister will lose everything, Marissa. I run my finger along a coffee ring stain on the table. She already took everything from me. She made a mistake. 3 years of mistakes? With my name on mortgage papers? The words taste bitter. That's not a mistake, that's a plan. He slides the envelope toward me. We've worked out a settlement offer. Your mother and I will cover half the debt. Tessa will make payments directly to you for the rest. Why now? Because you got caught? His eyes drop to his hands. The same hands that taught me to ride a bike, that signed my school permission slips, that waved away my concerns when I mentioned the credit alerts last year. "This will destroy your mother's health," he says softly. "Her blood pressure is through the roof. The doctor says—" Stop! My palm slams against the table. A coffee mug jumps, splashing cold liquid onto my work shirt. "You don't get to use Mom's health to manipulate me, not anymore." The familiar urge to comfort him rises within me's lifetime habit of smoothing things over, making everyone else comfortable at my expense. But Mr. Crane's words echo in my mind. Their comfort has always come at your cost. Dad pulls out papers from the envelope. "Just sign these and drop the police report. We'll handle the rest." I laugh, a sharp, unfamiliar sound. "You want me to sign more papers? That's what started this whole mess." "We're family." His voice cracks on the word. "Family asks. They don't steal." He pushes the settlement papers toward me again. The signature line waits at the bottom, blank and accusing. For a moment, I see all the other papers I've signed over the years: medical forms during Mom's gallbladder surgery, financial aid applications for Tessa's college, insurance papers when Dad retired early. My phone vibrates in my pocket. A text from Mr. Crane. "Remember your worth." I stand, leaving the papers untouched. "I've arranged a meeting. Tomorrow at 3 at Mr. Crane's office. Bring Mom and Tessa." "A lawyer? That's unnecessary. We can work this out ourselves." We tried that approach for 34 years. I gather the settlement papers and hand them back to him. It ends now. He takes the papers, his fingers trembling slightly. "Your mother can't handle a legal battle." "Then she shouldn't have started one." The shelter's intercom crackles to life, calling for assistance with a new rescue arrival. Dad flinches at the noise. "I have to go," I say. 3 o'clock tomorrow, don't be late." I turn to leave, but his voice stops me. "I never signed anything." His words come out small, defensive. "I just didn't ask questions." I face him one last time. That's worse. The next day, I arrive at Mr. Crane's office 30 minutes early. The retired military lawyer's space is modest, but impeccable framed commendations on the walls. A worn leather chair behind his desk. A coffee pot that never seems to empty. "They'll try to make you doubt yourself," he says, organizing the evidence folders with methodical precision. "They'll appeal to your compassion, your sense of duty." I know. Your entire identity has been built around being their safety net. He looks up, his eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Are you prepared for them to fall?" Before I can answer, the receptionist buzzes. "The Lowell family is here." They file in silently, Mom with her hand clutching her purse strap, Dad looking anywhere but at me, Tessa with red-rimmed eyes and defiant posture. No one sits until Mr. Please. Crane gestures to the chairs opposite his desk. "Thank you for coming," he says, formal and detached. "Miss Lowell has asked me to present the non-negotiable terms for moving forward." Tessa's mouth opens to interrupt, but Mr. Crane continues without pause. "First item. Full admission of identity theft and fraudulent representation." He places a document on the desk. My credit report marked with red highlighter showing 3 years of unauthorized activity. Next to it, the forged mortgage application with my name scrawled at the bottom, nothing like my actual signature. Second item. Complete restitution of all funds and damages. The bank's fraud determination letter appears next, followed by the police report I filed. Third item. Professional family counseling before any relationship can be restored. Mom begins to cry, quiet tears tracking through her makeup. Dad places his hand over hers. "This is overkill," Tessa says, her voice tight. "We made a mistake. We're trying to fix it." "A mistake is accidental," I say, speaking for the first time. "This was deliberate and calculated and cruel." I pull out my own evidence birthday cards from the last 3 years, each signed with variations of, "Thank you for always being our backup plan." The phrase that once seemed like a compliment now reveals its true meaning. "You didn't just steal my identity," I continue, my voice growing stronger with each word. "You stole my future, my peace of mind, my trust." Mr. Crane hands each of them a document outlining the terms. The home must be sold, the debt repaid in full, the legal consequences accepted. You have 24 hours to decide, he says. After that, we proceed with all legal remedies available. Mom's hand reaches across the table toward mine. Marissa, please. I stand, gathering my folder. 24 hours. As I walk out, I hear Tessa's angry sob, Dad's heavy sigh, Mom's whispered, "What have we done?" For the first time in my life, I don't turn back to comfort them. A year later, the pottery wheel spins beneath my fingertips, clay slick and responsive. I center the lump with practiced pressure, thumbs creating the first depression as water drips between my fingers. Transformation begins. Beautiful centering, comments Eleanor, the silver-haired instructor whose hands bear 60 years of clay work. You've got a natural feel for it. I don't deflect her praise like I once would have. Thank you. It's becoming meditative. Sunlight streams through the studio's west windows, catching dust motes and turning them golden. A year has passed since that Sunday morning phone call shattered everything I thought I knew about family. Justice, my three-legged shepherd, mixed the shelter's longest resident until I signed the adoption papers, snores softly in the corner. The studio owner lets him stay during weekend workshops, another small kindness in my reconstructed life. Going to glaze the reclamation collection today? Eleanor asks, adjusting a student's hand position across the room. I nod, hands steady as I pull the walls of what will become a mug. The gallery wants them next week. The reclamation collection. 7 pieces, mugs, bowls, a teapot, each bearing the fingerprint swirl I've made my signature. Each piece started broken, shards of abandoned pottery I gathered and crushed, then mixed into fresh clay, destruction and renewal combined. My phone buzzes, Mom's weekly text, "Coffee Tuesday?" I'll accept, as I have for the past 3 months. Our conversations remain careful, circling authenticity without quite landing. She brings photos from old family albums. I bring boundaries, reinforced by my therapist's quiet encouragement. Dad still won't speak to me. Some relationships can't survive truth. Tessa serves her community service hours at the county animal control office. Irony not lost on either of us when she called, voice small with shame, asking if the shelter needed volunteers. I referred her elsewhere. My domain remains mine. Her restitution payments arrive monthly, on time. Marissa? A voice pulls me back. Daria, a shelter volunteer, stands hesitantly at my wheel. Sorry to interrupt your class, but I needed. Can we talk afterward? I recognize the familiar strain in her expression, the look of someone carrying secrets too heavy to bear alone. Family stuff? I ask gently. Her eyes widen. How did you know? Experience. I wipe clay from my hands. I'll meet you at Riverside Cafe in an hour. After she leaves, I return to my creation, hands finding their rhythm. The clay responds to pressure, expanding upward, taking form. I shape the lip with decisive movements, no wobble, no uncertainty. Next week, someone will purchase this mug, run their fingers along its surface, feel the subtle texture of reclaimed materials beneath the glaze. They'll never know its origin story, how destruction became creation. But I'll know. I glance at Justice, who lifts his head at my attention, tail thumping against the floorboards. Almost finished, I tell him, smoothing the mug's handle with my thumb. When the piece sits completed before me, I add my maker's mark to the bottom, a small, perfect boundary that declares, "This is mine, this is what I made, this stands on its own." I arrive at the Mayfair Grill 15 minutes early, smoothing down my charcoal blazer as I step through the glass doors. The restaurant breathes wealth, crystal chandeliers catching light in fractured patterns across cream tablecloths, waitstaff moving with practiced efficiency between tables of Portland's elite. My stomach tightens with familiar anxiety, the kind that always surfaces before family gatherings. Reservation for Brooks, I tell the hostess, trying to project confidence I don't feel. She smiles professionally. Of course, Miss Brooks, your family is already seated. Right this way. Already seated? The dinner invitation clearly said 7 o'clock. I check my watch, 6:45. They must have changed the time without telling me. Again. The hostess leads me past hushed conversations and polite laughter toward the back of the restaurant, where my family occupies a large round table beneath a private chandelier. My sister Vanessa sits with her back to me, blonde hair falling in perfect waves. My parents, Martin and Ellen, flank her like royal attendants. Ryan, My brother, barely looks up from his phone when I approach. At the far end sits Margaret Hayden, my grandmother, her silver hair swept into an elegant knot, sharp blue eyes, missing nothing. She's the only one who notices me first, her gaze assessing but unreadable. "Sorry I'm late," I say, reaching for the empty chair beside Ryan. "The invitation," said Seven. "Sorry, Jamie," Vanessa interrupts, her voice carrying clearly over the ambient restaurant noise. "This table's for the family, not the adopted one." The words land like a physical blow. Laughter ripples around the table. My father studies his wine glass. My mother adjusts her pearl necklace, lips pursed but silent. Ryan keeps scrolling, pretending not to hear. Only Margaret's expression changes a slight narrowing of those observant eyes. Heat floods my face as blood rushes to my cheeks. My heart hammers against my ribs so hard I'm certain everyone can see my blazer moving. Each breath becomes shallow, insufficient. Around us, neighboring tables quiet, eyes darting toward our table then away, pretending they haven't heard. "I don't understand," I say, my voice barely audible even to myself. "You all invited me here to celebrate Vanessa's business launch." Vanessa twirls her fork between manicured fingers. "Did we? Must have been a courtesy invitation. You know, like when people say, we should get coffee sometime but never actually mean it." I can't process what's happening. After years of smaller slights, Christmas gifts that disappeared before New Year's, forgotten birthday dinners, last-minute vacation plan changes, this public humiliation feels calculated, deliberate. A memory surfaces. 7-year-old me, watching Vanessa unwrap her third Christmas present while I still held my only gift, a second-hand sketch pad. Mom's explanation echoing. "Vanessa is our daughter, sweetie. It's different." "I was invited here," I say, fighting to keep my voice steady. "By all of you." A war rages inside me. Walk away now, preserve what's left of my dignity, or stay, prove I belong despite their cruelty. The designer in me notices details through the shock, the tightness at Margaret's mouth, the way her fingers tap against the tablecloth in what seems like disapproval. She hasn't joined their laughter. "I think I've made a mistake coming here," I say finally, straightening my shoulders. "Don't be so sensitive," Vanessa says, rolling her eyes. "It was just a joke. Sit down." Something in her tone, the expectation of compliance, makes me hesitate. I've spent my life trying to earn their acceptance. Yet something shifts inside me as I take the seat beside Ryan, who finally glances up with the barest nod before returning to his screen. Dinner proceeds in a blur of expensive wine and elaborate courses. I pick at my food, contributing nothing to conversation. My family talks around me about Vanessa's new boutique, Ryan's latest girlfriend, an upcoming trip to Aspen. I'm invisible until the check arrives. The waiter approaches with a leather folder, which he places directly in front of me. "Whenever you're ready, ma'am." I open it automatically, then freeze. $3,480. Vanessa leans forward, eyes gleaming. "You said your design firm's doing great, right? Consider this your contribution to the family." 5 pairs of eyes fix on me, waiting, testing. Even Ryan watches now, his phone forgotten. Only Margaret's gaze holds something different, calculation rather than mockery. My fingers tremble as I reach for my credit card. I can't afford this. The card will likely decline. 3 months of rent, gone in an evening where I wasn't even welcomed. But I refuse to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. "I need to use the restroom," I say, rising after signing the bill. In the bathroom, I grip the marble counter, watching my hands shake. The woman in the mirror looks composed, except for the flush across her cheekbones, the 2 bright eyes. 22 years of trying to earn my place in this family, and tonight they've made it undeniably clear. I never had one. The bathroom door opens. Margaret Hayden enters, her reflection appearing beside mine in the mirror. "My dear, I saw what happened out there." I straighten, building walls against pity. Margaret has always been an enigma. Martin's mother, wealthy founder of Hayden Biotech, more observer than participant in family dynamics. We've barely exchanged more than pleasantries at holiday gatherings over the years. "It's fine," I say automatically. I'm used to it. Margaret's blue eyes, so similar to my own, hold mine in the mirror. "No one should be used to what I witnessed tonight." She reaches into her handbag, extracting a business card which she places on the counter between us. "Come see me tomorrow at my office. There's something you deserve to know." I stare at the embossed card, Margaret Hayden, CEO, Hayden Biotech, my fingers hesitating before taking it. Why would you help me? I ask, suspicion warring with desperation. Because it's time someone did, she answers simply. 10 o'clock tomorrow. Don't be late. I arrive at Hayden Biotech headquarters at 9:45 the next morning. The gleaming glass tower pierces Portland's skyline like an accusation, reflecting clouds that threaten rain. My throat tightens as the elevator climbs to the executive floor, my reflection in polished doors looking more composed than I feel. The $3,480 charge from last night is still pending on my nearly maxed-out credit card. Margaret's executive assistant, a woman with silver-framed glasses and immaculate posture, greets me with professional warmth. Miss Brooks? Mrs. Hayden is expecting you. She leads me through double mahogany doors that open with barely a whisper. Margaret Hayden stands at a wall of windows, silhouetted against Portland's skyline. She turns as I enter, those penetrating blue eyes so unnervingly similar to mine assessing me with clinical precision. Jamie? Thank you for coming. She gestures toward a leather chair positioned before her desk. Please. I sit, back straight, hands folded in my lap. Years of navigating the Brooks family have taught me to armor myself with composure. Your card said 10 o'clock. I prefer being early. But a trait your biological parents shared. Margaret settles into her chair, leaning forward slightly. Especially your father. The words slice through my carefully maintained facade. My biological parents? Margaret slides a photograph across the polished desk surface. Two smiling faces look up at me, a bearded man with kind eyes and a woman with my exact jawline. They wear matching engineering jackets with Abbott Technologies logos. David and Sarah Chen, Margaret says. Brilliant engineers. And my dearest friends. You knew them? My voice sounds distant to my own ears, as if the words come from someone else. I recruited them personally from MIT. Margaret's fingers trace the edge of the photograph. They developed revolutionary medical imaging technology. Brilliant minds. We worked closely for nearly 8 years before the accident. Accident? A car crash. Black ice on the mountain highway. Margaret's voice remains even, but something in her eyes shifts. You were 6 years old. They'd just established your trust fund the month before. My fingertips hover over the photograph, not quite touching. Trust fund? Margaret opens a drawer, extracting a thick folder which she places between us. $680,000, every penny they'd saved, plus their life insurance. Designated specifically for your care and education. The room tilts slightly. I never knew about any trust fund. Because it vanished within a year of your adoption. Margaret's voice hardens as she spreads documents across the desk. Financial statements, bank transfers, property deeds. Each page reveals another betrayal. Trust documents with my name, transfer authorizations signed by Martin Brooks, deposits into Brooks family holdings. I was 63 when they died, Margaret continues, too old to raise a child. But my son Martin had just married Ellen. They were starting a family with Vanessa. It seemed perfect. Her mouth twists. I arranged the adoption myself, and transferred the trust fund to Martin as your legal guardian. My eyes lock on transaction dates that correspond with family milestones I'd been excluded from. Private school tuition for Vanessa, college fund deposits for Ryan. A Bahamas vacation property purchased 3 months after my adoption. They used me for my inheritance? The question emerges as barely more than a whisper. While sending you to public school in hand-me-downs, Margaret's voice carries controlled fury. And later, community college on student loans. Margaret's voice. Memories cascade through my mind, reframing themselves with brutal clarity. The summer Ryan got a new car for his 16th birthday while I took the bus to my after-school job. Christmas mornings when Vanessa unwrapped designer clothes while I received discount store basics. College applications where Martin dismissed my dreams of attending art school as impractical, while paying full tuition for Ryan's business degree. Not just neglect, calculated theft. I force myself to breathe, to process. Why are you showing me this now, after all these years? Margaret leans back in her chair, studying me. Because lately, they've been trying to push me out of my own company. What do you mean? Martin has been working the board behind my back. Her fingers tap against the armrest. Spreading rumors I have dementia, that I'm making erratic decisions, that I should be removed for my own good and the company's protection. The parallel slams into me: the same family that stole my inheritance now attempting to seize Margaret's company. So that's what last night's dinner was really about. They needed to establish that you're losing your mental faculties, while demonstrating their loving family dynamic to contrast with my supposed decline. Margaret nods. Your public humiliation served their narrative perfectly. The realization makes me feel simultaneously more valuable and more used than ever before. Not just the family disappointment, an actual obstacle in their path to greater wealth. Martin always felt entitled to family wealth. Margaret continues, her voice hardening. He grew up expecting to inherit everything. When I insisted on building something of my own, he viewed it as money being withheld from him. And now? He's desperate. Failed investments. Vanessa's boutique hemorrhaging money. Ryan's startup collapsed last year. Margaret's eyes narrow. They've already tried to forge my signature on company documents. My stomach drops. That's criminal. They're working with a lawyer who specializes in declaring elderly executives incompetent. Margaret's calm feels dangerous, like still water concealing undertow. They're patient and methodical. They'll wait for the right moment. When? The board votes next month on succession planning. Margaret rises, pacing slowly. Martin has been cultivating certain board members for years. Ellen hosts their wives for luncheons. They send birthday gifts to their children. I watch her move, seeing calculation behind the apparent agitation. This woman built an empire through strategic thinking. Nothing about this conversation is accidental. Why would you help me after all this time? I ask finally. You could have told me about my parents years ago. Margaret stops, turning to face me fully. I made a terrible mistake entrusting you to my son. I believed his promise to raise you as his own. Regret flashes across her features. When I realized what was happening, you were already grown. What good would it do to tell you then? She moves to a small bar, pouring 2 glasses of water. But now, they think they can erase us both. Let's make sure they regret that. The shift in language, us both, rings through me. For the first time in my life, someone with actual power stands aligned with me against the Brooks family. I have resources, Margaret continues. Legal teams, financial investigators, corporate connections your father and brother have never managed to cultivate. She returns, offering me a glass. Thomas Reed, my trusted accountant, has already begun tracing the missing funds. Diana Wallace, my corporate attorney, is prepared to file charges if you wish. I take the water, mind racing through implications. Not just a revelation of past wrongs, but an alliance against future ones. Not simply an explanation for my childhood of subtle cruelties, but a pathway to justice. Why would you help me after all this time? I ask again, needing absolute clarity before committing. Margaret's eyes, so like mine, hold steady. Because I owe it to your parents. And because it's time someone stood up to my son. I look down at the photograph again, at the smiling faces of strangers who gave me life, who intended to give me security, whose legacy was stolen by people who claimed to love me. Something shifts inside me, like a door unlocking. I'm no longer just the mistreated adopted daughter. I have options, allies, a true history, and for the first time in my life, I have power. I kneel in the dusty storage unit, surrounded by cardboard boxes labeled in my childhood handwriting. 1 week since meeting with Margaret has transformed my understanding of the past, turning childhood memories into evidence of calculated exploitation. The key to this unit had been hidden in my apartment for years, taped beneath my desk drawer, a secret even from myself. There has to be something here, I mutter, wiping sweat from my forehead. The August heat turns the metal container into an oven. My fingers leave tracks through dust on a plastic bin marked school papers. I lift the lid and find nothing but old report cards and art projects. A gold star still clinging to a faded drawing of what might be our family, 4 tall figures, and 1 small one standing apart. 3 hours of searching yields nothing until I reach the final box, tucked in the far corner. Inside, beneath a stack of birthday cards signed by classmates but not family, I find a manila envelope. My biological parents' handwriting covers the front, Jamie's future. My hands shake so badly I nearly drop it. Inside, photocopies of trust documents, the originals dated 3 months before the car crash that killed them. And emails, dozens of them, between my biological parents and Margaret, discussing the trust terms and her role as executor before Martin's adoption. The trust documents spell it out in black and white. $680,000 designated specifically for the care, well-being, and education of our daughter, Jamie Elizabeth. Not for vacation homes, not for Vanessa's private school, for me. I pull out my phone and capture photos of every page, my fingers trembling with something beyond rage, the first taste of power. Legal proof that validates everything Margaret told me. Evidence that will force them to see me. Diana Wallace reviews the documents in Margaret's sunlit office the following morning, her expression growing grimmer with each page. This establishes clear misappropriation, she says, adjusting her glasses. The language is explicit about how these funds were to be used. Thomas Reed nods, spreadsheets spread before him on the polished conference table. I've cross-referenced the dates with Brooks' family purchases. His finger traces a timeline he's constructed. Their Aspen vacation home was bought 3 months after you were adopted. The timing aligns precisely with the largest withdrawal from your trust. Margaret watches me from the head of the table, those sharp blue eyes assessing my reaction. You found these yourself? In your storage unit? Yes, I say. I remembered my biological parents kept copies of important documents. I preserved the chain of custody. Everything's dated and photographed exactly as I found it. Margaret's lips curve in the faintest smile. Well done, Jamie. 3 days later, I stood on the doorstep of the Brooks family home, clutching a leather portfolio containing copies of the trust documents and financial records. My heartbeat pounds in my ears, but my hands remain steady. I've rehearsed this moment for days. Ellen answers the door with practiced surprise. Jamie, we weren't expecting you. Family dinner tonight, right? I ask, stepping past her without waiting for an invitation. I thought I'd join. The dining room gleams with expensive familiarity. Crystal chandelier, mahogany table, set with china, that costs more than my monthly rent. Martin sits at the head, Ryan and Vanessa flanking him like courtiers. Their expressions shift from annoyance to confusion as Ellen ushers me in. Jamie decided to join us, she announces, voice tight with forced pleasantry. How? Unexpected, Martin says, not bothering to hide his displeasure. I take the empty seat beside Ryan, who barely glances up from his phone. I wouldn't miss family dinner, I say, placing my portfolio beside my plate. Dinner proceeds with stilted conversation. Vanessa dominates, discussing her boutique success while shooting pointed glances my way. I eat methodically, waiting for the perfect moment. It comes when Ellen brings out dessert crème brûlée served in crystal dishes. I know what you did with my parents' money, I say, breaking the delicate sugar crust with my spoon. The room freezes. Martin sets down his wine glass slowly. What nonsense has my mother been filling your head with? I open the portfolio and remove the trust documents, sliding them across the table. I have the original trust documents, and the transfers to Brooks family holdings. Ellen pales visibly, fingers clutching her napkin. Vanessa scoffs, examining her manicure with exaggerated boredom. But Ryan, for once, looks up from his phone, suddenly interested. These could be fake. Martin says, not touching the papers. They're not, I reply. The bank has confirmed their authenticity. Vanessa reaches for the documents, flipping through them with growing disdain. So what? You've always cost more than you were worth. The words should sting, but instead they confirm everything I've come to understand. I take a slow sip of water, savoring the shift in power. Margaret knows everything, I say calmly, and she's helping me take back what's mine. Martin's face darkens. My mother is not well. No one will believe either of you. We'll see who they believe, I reply, gathering my evidence and standing. The board meeting should be interesting. I walk out without looking back, their silence more satisfying than any response could be. The following morning, Margaret convenes a meeting with loyal board members in the Hayden Biotech conference room. Sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the Portland skyline beyond. I stand beside her, wearing a charcoal suit that matches her own, our similar blue eyes scanning the room. Thank you all for coming, Margaret says. Jamie has something important to share. I present the evidence, methodically trust documents, financial transfers, the pattern of misappropriation spanning 2 decades. The board members listen with growing concern, particularly Elizabeth Wilson, who served alongside Margaret since the company's founding. I've questioned Martin's financial decisions for years, Elizabeth says when I finish, particularly the property acquisitions that seemed unnecessary for company operations. Thomas Reed distributes his forensic accounting report, pointing to highlighted sections. This pattern of financial impropriety extends beyond the trust fund. Martin has been using similar tactics with company resources. For the first time, I feel myself standing not as an outsider seeking validation, but as someone with allies, powerful ones. The corporate battlefield offers clarity that family dinners never could. Margaret steps forward. Jamie has more business acumen than Martin ever did. She found these documents independently and preserved their integrity like a seasoned investigator. The validation washes over me not as empty praise, but as recognition of capabilities I've developed despite, or perhaps because of, their cruelty. As the meeting concludes with promises of support, a new question forms. Should I push for immediate legal action, or build a more comprehensive case first? Margaret seems to read my thoughts. Strategic patience, she murmurs as the board members file out. We've waited decades for justice. A few more weeks won't hurt. I nod, understanding that the storm I've set in motion is just beginning to build. 2 weeks later, I sat at Margaret's rosewood desk, surrounded by stacks of financial records. Morning light streams through the bay windows of her home office, illuminating dust motes that dance between us. The methodical quiet feels worlds away from that humiliating dinner at the Mayfair Grill. We need to think like they do, calculating and patient. I tell Margaret, spreading out color-coded folders. Immediate satisfaction won't win against people who've been manipulating the system for decades. Margaret nods, blue eyes sharp despite her 79 years. You're exactly right, Jamie. Martin has always played the long game. He's been positioning himself for my retirement since he turned 40. I've spent the past 14 days studying Hayden Biotech's corporate bylaws until my eyes burned, highlighting succession protocols and board voting requirements. The designer in me appreciates the elegant structure of corporate governance rules built upon rules, each serving a specific purpose. Diana Wallace, Margaret's trusted attorney, taps her pen against a legal pad. We're developing 3 parallel strategies. First, documenting the trust fund misappropriation for potential criminal charges. Second, gathering evidence of Martin's questionable decisions as COO. Third, countering the dementia rumors with independent medical evaluations. The timing is critical, Reed adds, his accountant's precision evident in every word. We need everything in place before the board meeting next month. The person I was at that restaurant table humiliated and blindsided feels like someone I barely recognize now. That Jamie paid a $3,480 dinner bill out of shock and shame. This Jamie plots a meticulous course toward justice, toward something that finally feels like control. Margaret slides a folder toward me. These are my notes on each board member, their voting history, business relationships, vulnerabilities. Elizabeth Wilson and James Peterson have always been skeptical of Martin's leadership style. They could be our strongest allies. I scan the pages, absorbing details about people I've never met, who now hold pieces of my future in their hands. And our biggest opponents? Gerald Hamilton and Patricia Davis. Both golf with Martin regularly and have investment ties to his side projects. The magnitude of what we're attempting settles over me. This isn't just about a stolen trust fund anymore. It's about wresting control of a multi-million-dollar company from people willing to declare their own mother mentally incompetent. Later that afternoon, Reed and I hunker down in Margaret's library, surrounded by years of company financial records. The mahogany shelves tower around us, filled with leather-bound classics Margaret has collected over decades. We work in companionable silence, interrupted only by occasional observations. Look at this, Reed says, pointing to a spreadsheet. 4 acquisitions of small research firms in the past 3 years, all formerly owned by Martin's college roommates from Stanford. I lean over his shoulder, studying the numbers, and all purchased at significantly above market value. Exactly. Reed's finger traces down columns of figures. The board approved each one based on Martin's recommendation, without independent valuation. As independent valuation. While Reed continues his analysis, I examine offshore banking documents, tracing a complicated web of transfers. Ellen's brother Thomas appears on the paperwork for accounts in the Cayman Islands. 3 deposits match exactly to funds withdrawn from company research grants. We work through dinner, building comprehensive dossiers on each questionable transaction. Margaret's PR team provides updates on their counter-strategy against the dementia rumors, arranging interviews with financial publications, where Margaret demonstrates her sharp business acumen. Diana joins us later, spreading legal documents across an antique coffee table. We're preparing both criminal and civil complaints, she explains. But we won't file anything until we have the complete picture. This isn't about one victory, it's about systematic dismantling of their position. The library grows darker as evening approaches. Margaret orders food, and we eat absently, focused on our tasks. The comprehensive approach feels right, methodical rather than emotional, strategic rather than reactive. 2 days later, I'm walking to my car after meeting Reed at a downtown coffee shop when I noticed a black sedan parked across the street and a man with a telephoto lens pointed directly at me. My stomach drops as the camera clicks rapidly. That night, I return to my apartment to find the door slightly ajar. Everything looks untouched at first glance, but my designer's eye for detail notices subtle differences, papers on my desk rearranged, laptop positioned at a different angle, file cabinet drawer not fully closed. Nothing appears to be missing, but the message is clear. They're watching. They're searching. They know we're building a case. I called Margaret immediately. They broke into my apartment. Nothing taken, but they went through my papers. Her voice remains steady. Move everything important to the secure storage facility. Reed arranged. Then come stay at my house. It's time to accelerate our timeline. Instead of fear, I feel a strange surge of validation. If they're scared enough to break the law, we're on the right track. Indeed, Margaret replies. Now we adapt. Reed will arrange counter-surveillance starting tomorrow. I look around my violated apartment, at the subtle evidence of their desperation, and smile for the first time in days. They wouldn't be taking such risks if they weren't afraid of what we've found. A day before the board meeting, I arranged the manila folders in a perfect row across Margaret's mahogany conference table, each one labeled with a board member's name. Inside each folder rests the same devastating evidence: trust documents, bank transfers, corporate memos, all meticulously organized to tell the story of systematic exploitation. Everything's in place, I say, looking up at Margaret. Legal briefs are filed but sealed. Diana has the whistleblower paperwork ready for Alan. Margaret nods, her silver hair catching the afternoon light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office. The independent medical evaluation came back yesterday. Perfect cognitive scores across all assessments. Reed enters, his normally composed demeanor showing rare excitement. I've secured protection for Alan Thompson. As head accountant for 15 years, his testimony about the transfer patterns will be unimpeachable. I run my fingertips along the edge of one folder, a habit from my design work when checking paper stock quality. This feels different than confronting them at dinner. More consequential. It is, Margaret says, her voice steady. You challenged them at dinner. Now we're dismantling their entire plan. Diana Wallace appears in the doorway, legal briefcase in hand. The sealed court documents are filed. One call from me activates everything. I've spent weeks learning the complexities of corporate governance, succession planning, whistleblower statutes, all while maintaining my design business. Margaret has coached me through board politics, identifying allies and potential opponents. We've built something far more potent than emotional confrontation, a comprehensive legal and corporate strategy. The PR team is ready too, Reed adds. They've prepared responses for every attack we anticipate from the family. I study the spreadsheet on my tablet, a detailed timeline of evidence collection and strategic positioning. Each completed task gives me a deeper sense of readiness, of growing into something beyond the woman who stood shocked at that restaurant table. Tomorrow the board members get their briefing packets, I say, checking off another item. By Friday, we'll have 7 of the 11 members confidentially informed. Margaret squares a folder with precise movements. We're not claiming victory yet, we're simply ready. My phone buzzes with a news alert. The headline flashes across my screen. Billionaire founder struggles with mental decline, family concerned. I thrust the phone toward Margaret. They've gone public. Within minutes, our phones light up with notifications. Reed's computer pings with email alerts. Diana steps out to take a call, her face grim. Martin moved faster than anticipated, Margaret says, scanning the article. He's quoted extensively about my concerning lapses in judgment and their heartbreaking decision to intervene for the company's protection. Reed turns his laptop to show us Vanessa's Instagram post, a staged photo of her holding Margaret's framed photograph, caption reading, "Family comes first." Sometimes loving someone means protecting them from themselves. Elder care. family duty. They're positioning themselves as concerned caretakers, Diana says, returning. And you, Jamie, as... She hesitates. As what? I ask. A manipulative outsider exploiting an elderly woman's confusion for financial gain. She reads from her phone. My stomach drops. They're attacking me too. Reed nods grimly. It's smart. They need to discredit both of you simultaneously. My phone rings, my largest client. After a brief conversation, my hand trembles as I set it down. They're pulling their contract. Said they can't be associated with the controversy. 3 more similar calls follow over the next hour. My design firm, built from nothing, through student loans and sleepless nights, is collapsing under the weight of accusations. I stand at the window, staring down at the city streets 20 floors below. Maybe this was a mistake. I'm losing everything I've built. For what? Justice against people who've never cared about me? Margaret joins me at the window, her reflection appearing beside mine in the glass. You've spent your life surviving their cruelty. Now you're going to fight, and I'll fight beside you. Something in her voice, the unwavering certainty, steadies me. I turn from the window. You're right. We adjust the strategy to include public relations. We fight back. The next morning, I arrived at Margaret's office before dawn. Diana and Reed join us an hour later, carrying fresh evidence and updated legal filings. All evidence is secured off-site. Reed confirms. Martin can't access or tamper with anything. The financial case is airtight, he adds, closing his leather portfolio with finality. Diana nods in agreement. The legal team is standing by. Everything is in place. Margaret rises from her chair, standing straighter than I've seen in weeks. We have everything we need now. I check my watch, 7:30 a.m. The emergency board meeting is at 9. That gives us 90 minutes for final preparations. Reed's phone buzzes. He reads the message, face darkening. Intel from board member Wilson. Martin is bringing Dr. Peterson to the meeting, a neurologist specializing in geriatric cognitive assessment. They're planning to have me declared incompetent on the spot, Margaret says, voice steady despite the threat. I gather my presentation materials, sliding them into my leather portfolio. My hand no longer trembles. Tomorrow we end this, all of it. The path before us is clear. No more enduring humiliation at dinner tables, no more watching these people take what isn't theirs. Today we stand our ground. Today we fought back. Ready for battle? Margaret asks in the doorway. Despite the strain of recent weeks, she stands tall, silver hair swept into an elegant knot, her blue eyes so much like my own, sharp and clear. As ready as I'll ever be. She squeezes my hand. Remember what we discussed. Martin will come in confident, thinking he's won before the first word. That's his weakness. Board members filter in, filling the long table with quiet conversation and curious glances. At precisely 9 o'clock, the doors swing open. Martin strides in with a stranger, a balding man in his 50s carrying a leather portfolio. Good morning, Martin announces, voice pitched to carry authority. Before we begin today's agenda, I've asked Dr. James Peterson to join us. My stomach knots. This wasn't part of our intelligence. Margaret's hand tightens almost imperceptibly on the armrest of her chair. Dr. Peterson is a leading neurologist, specializing in cognitive decline in older adults. Martin continues, placing a hand on the doctor's shoulder. He's here at my request, as a concerned son. Ellen slips in behind them, distributing blue folders to each board member. A letter from our family, she murmurs, not meeting anyone's eyes. We've been hesitant to bring this forward, but recent events have forced our hand. I watch 12 pairs of hands open identical folders. The board chairman, William Blackwell, frowns as he scans the contents. What's this about, Martin? He asks. A difficult but necessary conversation. Martin moves to the head of the table, directly opposite Margaret. Mother, we've noticed changes in your behavior over the past year. Memory lapses, confusion about simple matters, difficulty tracking conversations. Margaret's expression remains neutral, but I catch the flash of anger in her eyes. Quite frankly, Martin continues, we're concerned about your ability to continue leading this company. The door opens again. Vanessa enters, eyes red-rimmed, clutching a tissue. She takes a seat beside her father, her performance of the grieving granddaughter already in full swing. It breaks my heart seeing grandmother struggle. She says, voice quavering perfectly. Last week, she couldn't remember my birthday. The week before, She got lost driving to the house she's lived in for 40 years. Lies. All lies. I grip my pen so tightly it threatens to snap. Ryan follows, laptop in hand. Board members, I've compiled some video evidence you should see before making any decisions today. The lights dim. On the projection screen, carefully edited clips show Margaret looking confused at various company functions. A moment where she pauses before answering a question. Another where she searches for a name. All normal human moments, stripped of context and stitched together to create the illusion of decline. Dr. Peterson has reviewed these recordings. Martin says, when the lights come back up, along with our family's observations. The neurologist clears his throat. Without a full examination, I can only offer preliminary observations. However, these videos display several concerning indicators consistent with early-stage cognitive impairment. I steal a glance at the board. Several members exchange worried looks. Elizabeth Wilson, Margaret's longtime ally, studies her folded hands. I can almost see the momentum shifting away from us. I move that we hold an immediate vote of no confidence. Martin announces, for the protection of this company and my mother's legacy, we need to act now, before any lasting damage is done. Chairman Blackwell looks troubled. This is quite sudden, Martin. Perhaps we should... With respect, William, the evidence is clear. My mother needs help, not more responsibility. We can vote today, or wait until a public mistake forces our hand. I know which I prefer. The room grows heavy with tension. This is happening too fast. I catch Margaret's eye and she gives me the slightest nod. I rise to my feet. Mr. Chairman, before this vote takes place, I'd like to address the board. Martin's face tightens. This is a board matter, Jamie. You have no standing here. Actually, she does, Margaret says calmly. As my invited guest and a stakeholder in Hayden Biotech's future. Chairman Blackwell nods. We'll hear from Miss Brooks. I move to the front of the room, my heart thundering against my ribs. Everything we've prepared for comes down to this moment. Before you vote, you should know what this family did to me and what they're trying to do to Margaret Hayden. I pull up my own presentation. The first slide shows trust documents dated 22 years ago. When I was 6 years old, my parents died in a car accident. They left behind a trust fund of $680,000 for my care and education. Margaret Hayden, their friend and colleague, arranged for her son Martin to adopt me. Martin stands. This is irrelevant to today's. She transferred that money to Martin Brooks to ensure my future. I continued, raising my voice slightly. Within 1 year, every cent had disappeared into an account called Brooks Family Holdings. Murmurs ripple through the room. The door opens and Thomas Reed enters, carrying a thick folder. This is Thomas Reed, former senior accountant for Hayden Biotech. I say, Mr. Reed has prepared a forensic analysis of both my trust fund theft and, more relevantly, Martin Brooks' financial decisions as COO. Reed distributes his reports to stunned board members. You'll find documented evidence of systematic self-dealing, including kickbacks from vendors, inflated expense reports, and questionable property acquisitions using company funds. Martin's face flushes dark red. These are outrageous accusations. Diana Wallace enters next, her confident stride matching her reputation as one of Portland's top corporate attorneys. This is Diana Wallace, I continue. She's brought medical reports from 3 independent specialists who examined Margaret Hayden last month. All confirm her cognitive function is well above average for her age, with no signs of impairment. Diana hands copies to the board members. You'll also find a sworn statement from Dr. Peterson's office manager, confirming he never examined Mrs. Hayden and was paid $50,000 by Martin Brooks 3 days ago. The neurologist pales, gathering his materials. I should go. Stay right there, Chairman Blackwell orders, his voice steel. The doors open one final time. An older man in a rumpled suit enters carrying a small hard drive. This is Alan Reed, retired company accountant. He maintained backup records of all financial transactions during his tenure, including those Martin attempted to delete from company servers. Ask Ace. The boardroom erupts in shocked conversations. Martin pounds the table. These are fabrications. She's manipulating all of you with lies and forged documents. Vanessa jumps to her feet, mascara streaking down her cheeks. She's not even real family. She's just some stray they pitied. The outburst echoes in the sudden silence. Board members stare at Vanessa, several reaching for their phones, recording. The careful, concerned family narrative collapses in an instant. The videos, Elizabeth Wilson says suddenly. Ryan, you edited those clips of Margaret, didn't you? Ryan's eyes darted nervously toward his father. I just, put together moments that showed what we were concerned about. So you manipulated video evidence to mislead this board? Blackwell asks. Not manipulated, just highlighted the important parts, Ryan stammers. I take a deep breath. They also tried to forge Margaret's signature on company documents. 3 weeks ago, they attempted to transfer control of Margaret's voting shares to Martin. Diana Wallace produces a thick report. This is a forensic handwriting analysis confirming the forgery. We've already filed this evidence with the district attorney's office. Martin's face has gone from red to ashen. This is all a misunderstanding. We were only trying to protect. Enough. Chairman Blackwell's voice cuts through the chaos. This meeting is adjourned. No votes will be taken today. He turns to the company counsel sitting at the far end of the table. Judge Morrison, given the serious nature of these allegations, I believe we need a formal investigation before proceeding further. The judge nods gravely. I concur, and I suggest we secure all company records immediately. As security escorts Martin, Ellen, Vanessa, and Ryan from the boardroom, Margaret catches my eye. For the first time in weeks, she smiles a smile of fierce, vindicating pride. The battle isn't over, but the tide has turned irrevocably in our favor. I stand at the polished podium, facing the semicircle of board members seated behind the mahogany conference table. 1 month has passed since Ryan's accidental confession about the edited videos. 1 month of final preparations for this formal hearing. The boardroom of Hayden Biotech stretches before me, floor-to-ceiling windows framing Portland's skyline. Every seat is filled board members, legal counsel, witnesses. Margaret sits to my right, ramrod straight despite her 79 years, those sharp blue eyes fixed on her son. Martin slouches in his chair across the room, designer suit failing to mask his unease. Ellen perches beside him, fingers constantly adjusting her pearl necklace. Vanessa glares openly, arms crossed over her chest. Ryan stares at the floor, already defeated. Judge Morrison, attending as company counsel, calls the hearing to order. This board has convened to address serious allegations against current COO Martin Brooks and to determine appropriate actions regarding company leadership. I take a slow breath, centering myself. The moment I've prepared for has arrived. Miss Brooks, please present your evidence, Judge Morrison says, nodding toward me. The projector illuminates behind me as I begin. My voice emerges stronger than I expected. Board members, what I'm about to share reveals a pattern of deception spanning decades. I click to the first slide, my parents' original trust documents. When I was 6 years old, my biological parents died in a car accident. They left behind a trust fund of $680,000 for my care and education. Martin shifts in his seat. This has nothing to do with company business. It establishes a pattern, Mr. Brooks, Judge Morrison replies. Continue, Miss Brooks. I advance through the meticulously prepared slides. Bank transfers from my trust to Brooks Family Holdings. Property deeds for vacation homes purchased months after my adoption. Tuition payments for Vanessa's private school, Ryan's college. They stole from an orphaned child. I say, my voice steady despite the emotion building in my chest. Then they tried to steal from an elderly woman. Thomas Reed rises next, presenting his complete financial analysis. My forensic examination reveals a consistent pattern of self-dealing by Martin Brooks throughout his tenure as COO. His laser pointer highlights suspicious transactions, offshore accounts, questionable acquisitions benefiting Martin's college friends. Board members lean forward, expressions shifting from skepticism to concern to outright horror. The chairman, James Wilson, removes his glasses twice to clean them, as if clearing his vision might somehow change what he's seeing. Diana Wallace follows with documentation of attempted forgeries. We have sworn statements from 3 employees confirming they witnessed Martin Brooks attempting to replicate Margaret Hayden's signature on company documents. These are fabrications, Martin stands, face flushed. My mother has been manipulated by this opportunist who's never been a real family. Margaret rises slowly, commanding attention without raising her voice. Real family, Martin? Was it real family when you emptied a dead couple's trust fund meant for their orphaned daughter? Her voice carries decades of disappointment. Was it real family when you sent Jamie to community college on loans while paying for Vanessa's apartment in Paris? The boardroom falls silent. Margaret continues, each word precise and devastating. My son has spent his life believing he deserves whatever he wants simply because it exists. He believed he deserved Jamie's trust fund. He believes he deserves my company. The evidence before you shows exactly what that sense of entitlement has cost this company and this family. Martin's attorney attempts damage control, presenting medical opinions questioning Margaret's competence, but these wither under comparison with the 3 independent assessments Diana arranged. His financial explanations collapse when confronted with Reed's forensic documentation. The family's unified front crumbles as pressure mounts. Ellen claims ignorance of financial details. Ryan mumbles apologies, eyes never leaving the floor. Only Vanessa maintains her defiance, finally exploding from her chair. She manipulated all of you. Her finger jabs toward me, voice rising to a near shriek. She's always been jealous of our family, always wanted what was ours. The outburst hangs in the air, damning in its naked hostility. What exactly was yours, Vanessa? I ask quietly. My parents' money? Your grandmother's company? Or just the satisfaction of making me feel unwelcome for 22 years? Chairman Wilson clears his throat. I believe we've heard sufficient testimony. The board will adjourn to deliberate. 40 minutes later, they return. The chairman's expression reveals the decision before he speaks. This board votes unanimously to remove Martin Brooks as Chief Operating Officer of Hayden Biotech, effective immediately. His gaze sweeps the room. Furthermore, Martin Brooks, Ellen Brooks, Vanessa Brooks, and Ryan Brooks are permanently banned from company premises. Martin half rises. You can't. The evidence speaks for itself, Mr. Brooks. Wilson cuts him off. This company deserves better leadership. Judge Morrison stands. Based on evidence presented today, I am referring this matter to the district attorney for consideration of criminal charges including forgery, financial fraud, and misappropriation of trust funds. The transformation is immediate and absolute. Martin collapses back into his chair, the color draining from his face. Ellen's hand flies to her throat. Vanessa's defiance crumbles into disbelief. The power that once allowed them to humiliate me at dinner, to saddle me with a $3,480 bill for their amusement, evaporates like morning dew. Margaret rises, back straight, voice clear. As founder and majority shareholder of Hayden Biotech, I formally announce my chosen successor for company leadership. She turns to me, extending her hand. Jamie Brooks has demonstrated not only the business acumen this company requires, but the integrity it deserves. The board members nod in approval. People who once might have dismissed me just as my family did, now look at me with respect, bordering on admiration. Security will escort the Brooks family from the building, Chairman Wilson announces. I watch as 2 uniformed guards approach my former family. Martin attempts one final protest but falls silent under the weight of public humiliation. They walk out Martin, Ellen, Vanessa, Ryan, a procession of defeat. Judge Morrison approaches after they've gone. The court will order restitution of the $2.1 million that should have accrued from your trust fund, with interest. He shakes his head. Financial fraud of this magnitude carries significant penalties. The following hour passes in a blur of congratulations and planning. The board unanimously approves filing a civil lawsuit against the Brooks family. Margaret's legal team begins the process of recovering stolen assets. My transformation feels complete, from humiliated adoptee forced to pay for family dinners to respected executive with a voice that matters. Near the end of the meeting, Margaret pulls me aside, her hand surprisingly strong on my arm. Your parents would be so proud of you today, she says, her blue eyes so like mine, bright with emotion. Not because you won, but because of how you won. With intelligence, with dignity. I search her face, finding no trace of the pity I once dreaded. I couldn't have done this without you. No, she agrees with a small smile, but you did it for both of us. My family forgot the difference between inheritance and integrity. You never did. As we leave the boardroom together, I realize something profound has shifted inside me. For years, I measured my worth by their acceptance, collecting their slights like painful treasures. Now, watching Margaret walk beside me, chosen family rather than forced, I understand that belonging isn't something you earn through submission. It's something you build through shared values. The elevator doors close on the boardroom behind us, sealing away 2 decades of longing for a family that never truly existed. Ahead lies something better, a future built on truth rather than pretense, on earned respect rather than demanded loyalty. Ready? Margaret asks, as the elevator begins its descent. I nod, feeling lighter than I have in years. More than ready. I stand at the edge of Lake Oswego, morning light splintering across the water. 3 months have passed since Margaret slipped away in her sleep, her hand in mine, a peaceful end to a remarkable life. The reading of her will surprised no one but shocked everyone. She left everything to me, the company, the fortune, this lakeside mansion with its sweeping views and echoing hallways. Miss Brooks? Thomas Reed approaches, documents tucked under his arm. The contractors need final approval on the renovations. I nod, turning from the water. Let's make it official. Inside, workers transform what was once Margaret's private study into the administrative heart of the Hayden Foundation for Abused and Neglected Children. Where Martin once plotted company takeovers, social workers will soon coordinate foster family support. Where Vanessa demanded more than her share, children who never had enough will find resources and hope. The dedication ceremony is scheduled for next month. Diana Wallace says, joining us in what was once the grand dining room. We've already received confirmation from the mayor and several state officials. I scan the renovation plans while my phone buzzes with another news alert. Martin's sentencing was last week, 3 years in federal prison for financial fraud, his designer suits traded for prison denim. Ellen sold their Aspen vacation home at a loss, the Lake Oswego property seized by federal authorities. She lives in subsidized housing now, her social circle evaporating once the money dried up. Did you see this? Diana slides her tablet toward me. On screen, Vanessa's latest attempt to rebrand herself as a lifestyle influencer drowns under thousands of comments linking to the viral video of her sneering, "She's not family" at the Mayfair Grill. The internet never forgets. Ryan works at the Rusty Anchor now, a dive bar on the industrial side of Portland. I spotted him there last month when meeting a contractor, his once perfect hair limp, shoulders hunched as he cleared tables. He pretended not to see me. I pretended the same. The quarterly reports came in? Thomas says, changing subjects. Profits up 18% since the leadership transition. Employee satisfaction scores at record levels. I accept the folder with a smile. Let's review them after the foundation meeting. 1 year passes like water through fingers. The calendar in my office marks 12 months since Margaret's passing with a small silver star. I run my fingers over it, remembering the woman who changed everything. The Jamie who walked into the Mayfair Grill last year no longer exists. That woman doubted her every decision, hunched her shoulders against inevitable rejection, craved approval from people who never intended to give it. The woman who runs Hayden Biotech now walks with purpose through research labs and board meetings, mentoring young executives with the same steady hand Margaret once offered me. The Montreal team developed something remarkable, I tell the board, clicking through presentation slides with confidence that once would have been impossible. Their sustainable pharmaceutical packaging will reduce plastic waste by 70% while cutting production costs. The board members, several new faces I personally recruited, nod with approval. No one questions my authority. No one reminds me I don't belong. Your leadership style is transforming this company, Elizabeth Wilson tells me after the meeting. The toxic competition under Martin has been replaced with actual innovation. I smile. People accomplish more when they aren't afraid of being undermined. That evening, my assistant handed me a letter that arrived with no return address. I recognized Ryan's handwriting immediately. You won, Jamie. Guess you were the only real one among us. I place it in my desk drawer without responding. His validation no longer matters. Sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows as I stand at the podium, hundreds of faces turned toward me. The newly completed Hayden Children's Center gleams with promise, a modern building with warm touches that make it feel like home. I spent years begging for a family that never wanted me, I say, my voice clear through the microphone. Turns out, I didn't need their approval, just my own peace. Behind me, Margaret's portrait watches over the proceedings, sunlight catching the engraved plaque beneath it. Family is built through love, not obligation. The crowd includes former board members, employees, community leaders, people who witnessed my transformation from outsider to leader. Not present are the faces that once defined my understanding of family. When the ceremony concludes, I walk to the lake's edge. From my pocket, I withdrew a check for exactly $680,000, the amount stolen from my trust fund so many years ago. The company's attorneys recovered it with interest during the legal proceedings. I tear it into pieces, watching fragments catch the breeze. I used to dream they'd say sorry. I tell Diana, who stands quietly beside me. Now I just hope they find whatever emptiness made them cruel. We watch ripples spread across the water, circles widening until they disappear into the greater whole. Behind us, the Foundation's staff prepares for tomorrow's first intake of children, while across town, Hayden biotech researchers develop treatments that will help thousands. Margaret would be proud, Diana says. I nod, feeling the truth of it settle inside me not as validation, but as peace. Justice served, legacy secured, family is redefined by integrity rather than blood. The ripples fade. I turn toward home,